with all of you. And hopefully you can ask questions whenever you want. We can just talk about some things. And the agenda of what we're going to talk about is sort of like a little bit about emotional intelligence. We're going to try to talk about some rules to live by in business and life. And then finally, a little bit about what I call PEP, which is people, environment, and process. And this will give you some tips that you may know and you may not know fully that may help you run your business enterprises that you guys are involved in. So does that sound okay as an agenda?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. All right, good. Well, Brain Surgery is a company that's been in business since the mid-90s. We started it actually at the end of 1994 with the mission to really teach companies how to build a better mousetrap around their messaging strategies. And I had been in the advertising agency business for the previous 20 plus years. And got to a point in that business in the 90s where the business had lost the art of building message strategy, really had, and it had been sucked into a sort of a place of execution, and strategic inferences were just kind of not there in the mid 90s. My last job at an ad agency was running about $350 million worth of business, most of which was the worldwide advertising for General Tire and Continental Tire in about 25 countries. And we produced that in 1 year as an ad agency. We produced over 3,700 different pieces of communication for that one client, just to give you an idea of the volume. And we were doing television commercials for them that were in 1992 were costing them somewhere between $5 and $11 million to produce, not just run. So that just gives you an idea. But I got kind of sick of the business, and so I decided, hey, you know, message strategy, positioning work is a lost art. I'm going to start a business around that, not knowing anything at the time about what it really takes to have one of those businesses and what it really takes to get customers to want to buy from you. And so basically, Brain Surgery today is what we call a marketing neuroscience consultancy. We have, since 1996, been deeply involved in the neuroscience community before it started and after it started, with the mission to understand what neuroscience brought to the table, which was how people make decisions. That's it. Neuroscience, I can describe for the last 20 years, it's a very new science, is the science of decision making. And it's brought forward scientific evidence that we, all of us, the royal we on this call, make decisions by first feeling an emotion, having it then send a neural signal to the frontal lobes in our brain, which is our reasoning system, and the two together cause us to make decisions. In some cases, you are unconscious of this behavior. In other cases, you're very conscious of this behavior. Our supposition is that if we can understand people's emotional orientation and the reason why it exists, we can ingratiate them more from a marketing perspective. And in our world, marketing has become the art of having a good conversation. And if you guys ever saw The Last Samurai, I like to quote The Last Samurai, where Kashimoto said, I would rather have a good conversation. And that is really what marketing is about today. And it doesn't matter whether you're doing very broad consumer marketing or you're doing very narrow business-to-business marketing. If you can't have an interesting conversation with your customers and potential customers, you lose. And it used to be that marketing was about the process of making a sale was, you know, getting awareness, getting people to be knowledgeable about what you were selling, getting familiarity, trial and usage, trust and advocacy. Now there's a big thing called interest, and it sits right between knowledge and awareness. If someone is not interested in what you have to say and what you have to say around what you have to offer, you will not be successful in today's world because there's too much grabbing at people for their attention and their interest. The other thing that we've learned is that the neuroscience of decision making is highly susceptible to someone's mental orientation. And I was in a meeting yesterday with a company that markets a product called Expovio, which is an XPO1 inhibitor therapy for multiple myeloma patients. And I'm looking up the note. Just give me 1 second. It was a pretty fascinating thing, and I just need, where the heck is it? Oh, and here it is. 5 minutes of negativity affects the nervous system for 24 hours. So we've also learned that the neuroscience of decision making is significantly stalled when someone is negative minded. So if you have the ability to understand negative mindedness and why it exists as people face the decision, you can dislodge that negativity, and you in fact must, because it causes people to not be able to listen, process information, or let alone act on it. And they certainly are not going to change a habitual behavior if they can't really listen and act. And so we say to really get people, excited about something, you have to get them to listen, you have to get them to think differently, and you have to get them to act differently. So our outcomes are helping our clients understand emotional priorities in someone's mind as they face a situation. And we do a lot of work in the pharmaceutical industry, and we work on a lot of disease categories. We probably worked on every major therapeutic solution that's been launched in the last 22 years. At least I think we have. Yeah, pretty much. So all those ads about psoriasis medications that you see on TV, we've either had an influence on them or the clients have ignored us and they've created a disaster. One or the other. So that's what a brain surgery does. And what we do is we have an end-to-end process that starts with fundamental insight around emotional behaviors and what decision making is caused by. And it rolls all the way down through what a salesperson says in front of a customer. And we have the ability to completely program that in such a way that the salesperson can be themselves. However, they are using words and language that the customer is going to automatically buy into. And our success ratio has been pretty phenomenal. I mean, we've increased major brands. And when I say major brands, most of the businesses we work on, guys, are anywhere from probably a low of $400 million in annual sales to a high of $14 billion in annual sales. And so when we make a 25% increase happen, it's a big number. And that's our minimum. Our maximum has been a 178% increase, and that's in the first quarter of executing our programs that we recommend. So, we're learning, and I will say we failed forward. Throughout the 90s, we screwed this up more than I can ever imagine. I mean, we really messed it up. But as we've grown in the 2000 era and beyond, we've now got the system very well perfected, and we're able to really, really help people, which is what we're all about, which is helping others. So I'll stop there. Any questions about that? I know that was all about us, but I wanted to give you guys a frame of reference for what we do.
John, I'm good. This is a question just to kind of start it off, and please, folks, turn on your video so we can see you. You don't have to turn on your audio, but I do want to see you. The idea of measuring impact. So you're essentially consulting and working with these companies, and you're helping them develop a message that will help them deliver their message to their customers. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that's fairly correct. We also help them position. We also help them position their products properly in the mind of their customers, depending on what they are and what they're doing. A lot of times when we go in and we do a study, we come out and we're able to point out that in a lot of cases where we're studying a legacy product, we find out that they've positioned it completely incorrectly, and that's why their sales aren't working. We work in situations, guys, where brands are really in trouble, and then we help them turn them around. And when we're working on a new product, Dennis, in almost all cases, we're combining the process of positioning the product and then providing them with directional information on messaging so they can then go build messages that make the positioning work. Okay. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, the point that I want the class to kind of get from this is you're dealing with companies that have very significant revenues, yet you're throwing around increases, numbers like 25%. And I just asked the class to think about that in your own case. If you're able to increase your sales by 25% by having the right message, I think that's the point I wanted to make sure it was received by everybody.
Right. And, guys, advertising agencies can execute, but they're only as good as the input that they have. And they're only as good as the direction that they have. And, I would say take heart. If you can really understand and master how to use one of those things and how to use the things you produce in an effective way, you'll be way ahead of the game. I mean, we work with, this past year alone, I have probably worked with over 100 ad agencies. And every single situation, the clients do not know how to direct them. They don't know how to get the most out of them. And consequently, they don't. And we come on board and we have people in the organization that really know how to make that kind of situation work well. And so we're constantly helping the agencies get the right input, get the right information so they can do a better job. That's just a byproduct of what we do. Any other questions? Okay, cool. Now I want to start with a question for the group, and that is, in your mind, what is emotional intelligence to you? And this doesn't really have to do with what brain surgery does, but this just has to do with how aware are you guys? So, let's just go around the group. Anybody can start. At the top of my screen, I've got Ashley, so you're on first. Yeah.
Okay.
I would say emotional intelligence for me is just kind of knowing what kind of hits your customers the hardest, like what impacts them the most emotionally. It's just, for me, I'm working more towards a mental health and a connection with nature and stuff like that. And a lot of people are really big into that. So I guess that's for me kind of the emotional connection there, if that's kind of what you mean.
That's good.
What is it for you personally, Ashley?
So the vision for Copper Ashes is to inspire purpose through nature in the form of wearable art. And I just really want people to kind of feel that connection with their own purpose and their purpose in life and their purpose, just in the great scheme of things. And so I guess to me, emotional intelligence is just having that connection with customers and just really realizing wanting to have that connection and wanting to actually make a difference and stuff like that.
What is it in your life?
Go ahead, Ashley.
In my life?
Yeah.
What is emotional intelligence to Ashley Nolan as a person? Forget about your customers and your business. What is it for you?
Never been asked this question before.
Well, Ashley, why don't you think about it and we'll go to Pete.
Yeah.
And, I'll rescue you, Ashley. You owe me. And Pete, this is for Pete. What do you have to say, Pete?
Well, I mean, I think emotional intelligence is, again, we've talked about this before, is we really have two faces to our company. So there's an emotional intelligence on the consumer side that wants to have their car serviced. They want to get the best service. They want to have the easiest service. They want to have the safest service. And so they want to have their car, serviced in a professional manner where it's at least troubling to them. They don't want to wait in there. They don't want to take time out of their day. They want to have time with their kids or to do the laundry, whatever else they want to do, instead of having to sit around in a dealership waiting for their car to get serviced, and they never know when it's going to need to be serviced. And then there's other emotional aspects for me personally. One of my emotional intelligence is, the fear of my license plates being expired, or my wife's or my kids' license plates being expired, since I'm in charge of making sure that happens, and them getting pulled over and et cetera. On the other side is where we actually sell our product, and that is into the dealership. And the emotional intelligence into the dealership side is, I don't know. I mean, why do they want to buy us? Why do they want to pay for our service? Well, to connect them with their customers, to make it easier for them in the shop is probably the most emotion you're going to get. Is they're frustrated, they're busy, they don't have time to stop and deal with a lot of customers, they don't have time to deal with new problems. Any way that we can alleviate problems and make it easier for them emotionally, I don't know how to, I don't know, it's a weird word, emotionally. And so I guess how to transfer that into stress versus anxiety versus happiness versus, ease of use. I think we need to take all that into account. And so, one of the things we try to do is we started out by saying, hey, we're going to easily make it so you can talk to your customers and get them in easier. And you can manage when you get them in and when you get them back. And that makes everything easier for you. And then we try to add on services like paying. So now customers can pay without having to go in or talk to anybody. That makes it easier for the dealership and easier emotionally for the consumer. Texting back and forth. You need new brake pad. Here's a picture of why. Now I have ease of, consciousness saying that, hey, I've informed this customer that they've got no brakes left and they're endangering their family. So all of these things, I guess, in our business, it's got to be taken from both sides, and you got to try to put yourself. I guess it's empathy, and I guess that empathy is part of the emotional intelligence, I would think. And again, I guess that's a tough interpretation. I think, how do I interpret emotional intelligence to go through? I guess it's going to be emotions, which are feelings, which are, there's so many, and where does it stop?
Well,
Yeah.
Well, I think you're doing one thing that's really smart in your comments. You're connecting reason to emotion, and that's what is really important. You can't do anything as a marketer with just emotion. Can't do it. Doesn't work. But what I really want to know, Peter, is what is emotional intelligence to you as a human being? Forget about your business.
I'm going to go the way Ashley said. I'm just kidding. I don't know. I mean, that's a tough question. How do you?
All right, Pete,
That's
you
okay.
think about it, Pete. I want to try
Okay.
to get a few more people in because we don't have that much time. I'm going to go to Sawyer.
Great. Thanks for the save.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Pete. Thank you, Ashley. Those were good. Appreciate it.
Yeah, those were good. I'm gonna have to top that, or try to at least. So emotional intelligence, for me, so I got into my line of business because I was taking, products that I had no clue what I was putting into my body. It caused my hair to fall out, and that got me pretty damn emotional, honestly. And so that got me,
Wow.
looking into what am I putting in my body, and how can we go at this like at a safer, healthier approach. So I just started doing research like crazy, trying to figure out, what ingredients are natural, where are they coming from, how do they react with the body, stuff like that. Fortunately, my hair did come back. I went to the doctor, showed them what I was taking, and they're like,
I don't
this
know,
is a bunch of
Sawyer.
chemical
I think
compounds.
I see some blank spots. I'm not sure, buddy. I'm
I'm
just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I do need to get another haircut though. I need to book that today.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my, emotional intelligence involved with my, me personally and how I got started with my business. Again, like if you're, 20 years old and you got hair falling out of your head, that's a kick in, your confidence right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, buddy.
Let's go to
I'm with you.
Holly. Holly, you're next.
Hey guys, so is the question still emotional intelligence?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, what
'cause
is it to you?
I Googled just to make sure I was on the same page here. I mean, so I cheated a little bit. So thanks guys who went first. I guess the emotional, I guess the emotional intelligence, that really hits me with, with my business and then me personally is, honestly, the farming aspect is going away from us, and it's really centering yourself to understand where your food comes from, kind of piggybacking off what Sawyer said a little bit, is just, knowing of awareness of what actually makes things work, and, what you are putting into your body, and how it becomes the market, and, just really relating it back to your consumers. And for me personally, it's a satisfaction of knowing that you are helping people out the same way, that a lot of us are doing, whether it's on a retail standpoint or, on a health standpoint.
Okay. How about you, Taylor? What do you have to say? No, Taylor may not be there. How about you, Brady? Oh, there's Taylor. There's Taylor. Hey.
Intelligence. Personally, I like to think that I'm good at reading people. That's the first thing that I think of is like, how can you tell what someone else is thinking or feeling or experiencing without them quite telling you? And a lot of times, like that's emotional cues, verbal cues, physical cues, just even how they're speaking, the things that they're talking about, the words that they're choosing to use. All of those kind of things come into play. And I mean, thinking about it, even from like an online perspective, because with COVID, everything has moved online. Even looking at like the words people choose to use in emails or messages or the pictures they're posting, like just trying to think about like when we're doing customer interaction, especially the word choices are really important, because a lot of our we don't see any customers face to face. We're an online business. So how do we look at the words they're using to kind of understand, especially if it's a customer problem, how to best come at it? And I think word choice, but then of course when you're in person, those like emotional and physical cues are really important.
Fantastic.
Cool.
How about you, Will? Will Pressler? He's there? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm here. I was trying to unmute. And it's funny. The reason I was late calling in is I actually had a client that had concerns, and it was fun trying to listen to his concerns and how he thought that he was being sold something that wasn't exactly what he wanted. And I always say, hand me the clients that are unhappy. I can make a long-term client, because it's fun to take somebody who's not completely happy and give them what they want in a situation where they go, this is exactly what I needed. I'm so glad you're able to do this. And, I'm a big believer of people buy emotionally and they back logically. And, in our business, we're not just selling to consumers, but we're selling to photographers to join our organization, and selling them emotionally of the ability to change the way they're living, create a great livelihood for themselves, become their own boss, really, diving into the aspect of their personal life and how it can develop them professionally is something that we take very seriously. As far as with clients, I mean, backing it emotionally and logically, the emotional aspect is definitely price and quality, but the quality and delivery time is a logical piece that culminates many sales for us. I love reading about emotional intelligence and stuff like this. It's actually a topic I've studied quite intently. Probably not as well as you guys, but
I don't know.
Good.
Got one more person, John. I'm going to ask Brady. I know he's my
Yeah.
assistant. He's a smart guy, so let's ask Brady what he thinks.
Shoot. I'd say emotional intelligence goes, it goes hand in hand with social intelligence. I think they're very similar. But the way I think about it is emotional intelligence is kind of more the inside. So, from a leadership perspective, what can you do to motivate somebody? Things like that. How can you handle your clients' concerns? Things like that. Whereas, social intelligence is just kind of more the outside, what can you actually say, not like the thought process behind it.
Okay.
Hey,
Well,
Brady, I got a question, Brady, for you, real quick.
Yes, sir.
Talk to me about, where did you learn about social intelligence?
Gosh, I mean, just kind of naturally, throughout life, I guess, throughout all my experiences. I've been in a lot of leadership positions before. and you kind of just have to learn how to deal with people regardless of, you know, who they are, how they think, their personalities. You have to learn how to deal with, you know, all types of people. You know, you could say things one way to somebody, but if you try to explain it the other way to somebody else, it probably wouldn't work. So being able to kind of adapt to that is kind of my definition of social intelligence.
So reason I asked you, Brady, is there's a cat out there, a gentleman named Andrew Goldman, and Goldman wrote a book called Social Intelligence about 10 years ago. And a lot of people criticized him for it, but I thought there were kernels of things in the book that were really interesting and really relevant to the world we're in now. And so those are all, listen, guys, thanks. I really appreciate you guys delving in on this with me. I know it is not an easy question because it's really open-ended. But I wanted to see, you know, just how the group thinks. And that was a really good way to do that. If you have not read the book Emotional Intelligence 2.0, you should. It will help you in two aspects. One, it will help you as a human being. Just in your day-to-day interactions with, you know, boyfriends, husbands, girlfriends, wives, etc., and friends. And the other thing it will do is it will give you a framework, and it's not a very big book, it's not hard to read. It'll give you a really important framework for just the aspects of emotional intelligence. And, you know, the two fundamental foundations, and I think Taylor, you pretty much nailed one of the aspects pretty well. And the rest of you are kind of hitting all around this. So none of these answers are bad answers. They're all really good answers. But emotional intelligence boils down to two fundamental things. Self-awareness is number one. How aware are you of you? And are you someone who, you know, Deepak Chopra writes a book called The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success, and you should get that and read it and keep it for the rest of your life. I read a chapter a day, and I've been doing that for the last 5 years. It's a small book. You can read the whole book in an hour. But what he says in that is that the law of pure potentiality is about mastering the ability to be completely conscious of everything you do all of the time. And in that, we learn there are two fundamental people inside all of us. There is the ego self, which is the role we are playing in life. And believe me, you're looking at two guys, Dennis Trotz and John Carr, who had a lot of ego self when we were young. and
not me.
And those egos,
maybe you, but not me.
Oh yeah, sure, pal. And those ego selves ran rampant over society in a big way. But today, we are now old, and it's hopefully not in the way too much. We've learned who the real self is, and so his supposition is we all have an ego self and we all have a real self. The ego self is driven by others' opinion of us. And the real self is driven by who we really are inside. And his teaching is that if you can master who you really are, your magnetism will be magical in your life. And so self-awareness is number one. And number two is awareness of others. Awareness of others. You know, Pete, you talked about being really aware of your customer and what they need and what they want and how to deliver that, and how you create ways of delivering that, and ways of conversing about that matter most to them, not you. So that was really cool. And Ashley, you said sort of a similar thing. How do I master and understand what's hardest for them so that I can come in and plug into that in a way that provides them with a way through? Those are my words, but that's what I heard you say. So all of you have an aspect of this, but the fundamental issue is if you can become very self-aware and you can match that with your awareness and knowledge of others, you kind of have a winning formula. So that's a little bit about emotional intelligence from the standpoint of what we've learned at brain surgery, what John Carr has learned in his life. And I use that awareness of myself and the awareness of others every single minute of every single day. And I'm constantly reminding myself when somebody does something that I think is just outrageous, not smart, ridiculous, or whatever, I constantly am reminding myself, well, don't judge them for that. Understand it, and understand it from the standpoint of really being able to appreciate that person and where they are and why they might be talking that way or behaving that way or doing all those things. And so that's kind of an important thing, and that may help you guys in your businesses. It's helped us in a huge way. And social intelligence, I think, is something worth just understanding, really, as much as anything. I think Brady pointed that out. It's important to just understand it, and have a touchstone about it. So those are two kind of things from that discussion that I think came out. Anybody want to add anything before we move on? Okay, here's the next question for the group. And it's, what is your definition of a successful life? Brady, let's start with you. You're at the bottom of my screen, I'm sorry. But let's start with you and we'll go the other way.
Well, Brady may not be there. Let's go on to the next person.
All right. How about William Pressler?
All the time. It's really good.
This is actually kind of easy for me. Being financially free while creating jobs for others.
Pretty cool. That's really good. Interesting.
I mean, that's just straight
Taylor,
to the
you're
point.
next. Taylor, you there?
Yeah, she's there.
For me, I love Jesus, and if I can just talk about my faith and share my faith with other people and see them hopefully grow in it and come to know Jesus as well, that is success for me, and I do that in everything I do.
Awesome. Now, who's the person it says White's Farm, but it doesn't say who you are?
It's
and it looks
Holly.
like you're in your truck.
Her name's Holly White.
Hey, yeah, this is
Holly
welcome
Hardy.
to welcome to my office, guys. It's really nice in here for sure. So what I define as success, I'm going to hit on two avenues. One is going to be personal, one's going to be professional. The personal, is starting a family and letting them grow and develop and hopefully be third generation farmers. That's my goal. And dabbling on the professional side is, to really grow the importance of a small business here in Eastern North Carolina and directly related to agriculture and what it means for our society in, from today and 10 years from now.
Great. Sawyer, you're next, buddy.
All right, let's go for it. So first and foremost, personally, like Holly said, I'd like to have a family, as well, have a wife and kids, stuff like that, raise them and hopefully, raise them right so that they're, able to go about life and do the things that they want to do and be respectful and, well-mannered, stuff like that. As far as professional life goes, I want to be financially free. I mean, who wouldn't? And I want to, change the supplement industry for the better. Right now there's a whole lot of, you hear one thing and then you hear something else that just kind of counteracts everything you thought you knew. So there's just such opposite, like, you hear stuff being thrown around the supplement and fitness industry all the time that, then you hear something that contradicts it the very next day. So just being able to really change the supplement industry for the better and help people understand what they're putting in their bodies and stuff like that.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Peter, you're on, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny how this answer for this question changes throughout your life. Having kids and, been through and a lot of it's my kids and wanting to show them and bring them up and let them be responsible people and, and teaching them the right way and teaching them about business. And, I've got my daughter in testing for us now and kind of, I think a lot of it just revolves around being happy with my spouse. I married my best friend. I was very lucky. And bringing my kids up the right way. I mean, business is business and it's all encompassing and it's always on my mind. But if it's all about emotional and about being happy, that's where I'm happiest. I'm happiest on vacation with my wife and my kids, with everybody having fun.
Cool.
That's great.
That's awesome, man. Ashley?
Yeah, so I would say like a successful life, in my opinion, is just simply knowing that you are important and you have a purpose in life. Like just knowing that you do have a purpose and that you have a sense of self-worth. I guess it doesn't matter like how rich or poor, what you do. Like if you don't enjoy your life, if you don't enjoy who you are, then I feel like you can't live a successful life. So for me, like that obviously could change for everybody. People are saying family, friends, having good connections. I think those are super important, and just being able to be like a role model and stuff for other people as well is, in my opinion, like very important for a successful life.
Awesome. And Brady, are you on?
I am. I'm back. Sorry, I stepped away for a minute.
Yeah, man. Did you get the question?
No, what is the question?
The question is, what is your definition of a successful life for you?
For me, I'd say a successful life is leaving anything you're a part of better off than when you started, and being able to do whatever you want, whenever you want, if you choose to do so. So not necessarily having to retire at 30 or 40 or whatever, but if you are able to do so, you can. Like if you wanted to, you can. If you wanted to, stop all your business for a year and take like a sabbatical or something, you could do that if you wanted to. That's success to me.
Very good. All right. Sorry, I'm just writing this down.
John's going to send all of us a bill after this, a sheet bill.
Listen, I got to tell you guys, I mean, I really appreciate everything every individual said. You all said it a little differently, which was really cool. And the other thing that's really cool about it is you all, for a group of young people, you guys are pretty in touch with, what you want and where you want to go. John Carr's definition of success is essentially the continued expansion of happiness and the realization of worthy goals. And how many of you guys saw this? It's a really bad movie, but it's funny in places. It was with Ben Stiller and Jennifer Aniston. It was Along Came Polly. How many have seen that movie? Well, there's a character in the movie played by Philip Seymour Hoffman who is always trying to relive the past. And he's always trying to rework his past success into current value. And he's constantly failing. And in the middle of the movie, Ben Stiller's character father, who never says anything through the whole movie, never talks. He finally looks at Philip Seymour Hoffman's character and he says, "Son, you have been trying your whole life to live off one past success. Let it go. It's about the ride. It's not about the destination." And I thought that was a brilliant way of saying, the one thing I will tell you guys is, if I had my 25-year-old self to sit down and talk with, what I would have said is, buddy, stop trying to create an end game and start enjoying the journey. That is a big thing. Success in life is about enjoying your journey. And that leads me to my first, and I think to do that, you have to master four things, guys, 4 things. And this is and these come from these are things I care about. And in brain surgery, they're part of our value system. One is being present, which is really hard. Okay. I quote Deepak Chopra a lot. I quote Daniel Goleman a lot. I quote different authors, and I quote a lot of movies. In The Last Samurai, there is a scene where Tom Cruise is trying to have a samurai sword fight with the samurai master of the samurais, and he's getting the crap beat out of him. And the son of Tatsumoto sits down in front of Tom Cruise during a break in the fighting, and he says, quote, "Too many mind on people, mind on opponent, mind on self, mind on weather, too many mind, no mind." That's how you are present. And Deepak Chopra quotes that past and future are born in the imagination. Now, this is a little bit of science I'm going to lay on you guys. We never remember anything we ever did as it really happened. It's a physiological impossibility. I can tell you what happened to John and Dennis at James Madison University when we were juniors, and we were at his house on Gay Street, and we were doing unusual things, which I will leave nameless at this moment. But I am never going to tell you how it really happened, because my memory has filled in a story about it that makes it sound really good to me. And so consequently, that's a big deal. We never really remember exactly what happened. That's why memories are born in the imagination. And the future that we think about is also born in the imagination. 90% of the obstacles come from our view of the past and our machinations about the future in our life. 90%. If you're present, you cut that out. Being present is being in the moment every single time you do something. Right now, I have I just in this phone call, I've gotten 61 emails from clients. But you know what? I don't care. Why? Because I'm thinking about all you guys. And I'm thinking about this conversation, and I'm focused on us. And so mastering being present is a big deal. I'll give you a really cool experiment. I've sponsored the rugby team at James Madison University now for a really long time. And I gave these guys I gave the leadership of the rugby program, all of whom are engineering students, a course in mastering the ability to be present. And I said, look, for the next semester, go into your classrooms and just do these things, master these things, be present, be present, be present. Well, all of them in that semester increased their GPA by a minimum of 1 point, and some 2, because they were present and they soaked up what the university professor had to say at a greater, faster rate than any of the other students in the program. So it was an interesting experiment. So being present is my first thing. It's a big deal. And we teach people how to do that in brain surgery. And when they come to work for us, it's rewarded, and we greatly appreciate them. Also, within being present, there's another book that you guys should get. It's called Time to Think. It's written by a UK professor named Nancy Klein. She's a clinical psychologist, and it's about creating thinking environments in your business and giving people permission to think. I think you guys will find it interesting, especially when you start to get other people working around you. But one of the things that, that she says is appreciating other people is one of the greatest motivational forces in the world. Showing appreciation, being appreciative is a huge, huge thing. And so within being present, you notice what little things people do. And what we do at brain surgery is we shower appreciation whenever we can on ourselves, our people, and our clients. And since we've been doing that, our business has just really gone through the roof. I mean, and it's been a really fun ride. So that's a big thing. The second thing is owning your choices. Now, we all have choices that hit us. Sometimes we are conscious of them, and sometimes we are unconscious of them. And therefore, in many cases, we don't think they're choices, but they are. One of the things that, you can do is your choices. Every day you have thousands of choices that you make. And if you can be conscious of them and recognize them, they become little personal assets for you. They're like little asset value in every choice you make, everything you do. If you think about it, you could choose not to be insulted by an insult, and you could choose not to be complimented by a compliment. You always have a choice. And so learning to master choices is really important. And at brain surgery, we are very big on this because we hold people accountable for their choices, even the little tiny ones they make. And we want to learn why they make them. And I think the more you do that with yourself, the more successful you will be. The third thing is the hardest thing in the world to do. And it's the easiest thing in the world to say. Do what you say you're going to do. Now, our company we have a point of difference out in the community we work in because we never fail to follow through on a promise. Ever. Ever. That's hard to do. That's really hard to do. And within that, you can revector things, but you have to do it in enough time to have courtesy to the other person that you promised it to. So, and they have to agree to it. So that's a big deal. Do what you say you're going to do. If you guys can do that in your businesses, my goodness, you will set yourself apart from everybody else in the world because nobody does what they say they're going to do. Or at least in my experience, very, very few. Very, very few. And then the last thing is super big. So I had the lady that runs brain surgery. She's the senior vice president of the company. She's been with me since 1996. She's the ops manager. She makes the operation roll. Well, the other day, she made a really big mistake, and we got on the phone with a client, and we presented the wrong thing, and it was like, oh boy, oy vey, And so we course corrected and apologized to the client and revectored it, got it all right. And at the end of the call, she called me and she said, man, I'm really sorry. I put the wrong thing up and la-di-da, and she was just agonizing over it. And I said, hey, so we made a mistake. You made a mistake. We made a mistake. It's not a question of whether we made a mistake or we didn't make a mistake or whether you're a bad girl or I'm a bad boy. It's a question of what are we going to do about it? What can we learn from that situation? And how can we take that forward with ourselves? This is called embracing and leveraging your failures. Embracing and leveraging failures is probably the one thing that very few people have the courage to do. And yet, if you do it, you will create massive success out of the kernel of what's in the failure. So we at brain surgery, in a way, in our own way, we celebrate failures. When people fail, it's not about how weak they are, how bad they were, or what they did wrong. It's about Well, what did you learn from that situation? What can we draw from in that situation that we can take forward and include in our business or in our value set that's going to make us better? And I think in every single instance, we've always found something that makes us better. Always. Never fails. Never fails. Ha ha. Boy, good play on words there. So those are 4 huge things. And I could go into others, the other one that I did not put in here that is really important and is embodied in some of these is knowing and respecting what you don't know. And if you look at John Carr, I'm 64 years old. Don't look it. Thanks. You guys didn't have to say anything.
It's like Father Time. What are you talking about?
But yeah, I know. But I don't know a lot of stuff, and I am always learning. And that's the other thing. We have a very open mind culturally to learning anything we can get our hands on and wrap our minds around. So that's a little bit about that. I'll stop for a minute. I know we have 5 minutes left, and I'm going to do a quick thing on people, environment, and process. But does anybody have any questions on those? Were those helpful to you guys? I guess that's my big question.
Yeah, last point really reminded me of like the obstacle is the way.
I like that.
Yep. That's good. Anybody else?
Okay.
All right. As you build your businesses, you're going to, there's a construct that I was given when I was really starting brain surgery, and it was hugely helpful. And it was all businesses are built on the foundation of people, environment, and process. And sometimes one or two of the 3 are stronger than the other. And sometimes they are all equal. In brain surgery, people are really important. We have to have the right people in the right place that do the right things all the time. And we evaluate people on 2 dimensions, knowledge and attitude. Ashley, if you came to work for us, I can assess you on those 2 dimensions. I can help you learn what we do. I can give you knowledge. We can help change your knowledge. But you know what we can't do? We can't make you motivated to do it. You have to have the attitude to want to be here. That's important. And so we know we can change knowledge. We also know attitude is very difficult to change. So we assess people on those 2 dimensions. Environment, well, brain surgery is I think one of, if not the first virtual company ever built in the United States. We started being virtual in 1996. Right. Exactly. That was really hard. We have rules about the environment and how to respect it. We also have small offices around the country where we do meet from time to time. But we have people in, I think, I want to say about 7 states. So, we were doing virtual phone calls like this in 2000, you guys all have different kinds of businesses. But I will say assessing your environment, being able to use technology, which is part of your environment, is a big deal and really worth taking a look at. And then process. Process can revolutionize your business. We built a process-oriented model, which means we don't have anybody who's in charge. We have steps to getting our work done. And each step has a captain. And so when we're in step 1, the captain of that step is Sabrina Carr, and John works for her. She has to tell me what to do if she needs help in step 1. Everybody works for Sabrina in step 1. Step 2, Nanette Nicholson's in charge. Everybody works for Nanette in step 2. Step 3, step 4, step 5, we have about an 8-step process. Here's what it's done. Most research companies or marketing consulting companies our size have about 80 to 100 people. You know how many people we have? Anybody want to guess? 12. Which means we are immensely profitable. We have 12 people. That's what focusing on process can help you do. And that's kind of what I had for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this and it was helpful for you. I was trying to come from a place of, appreciating all of you as entrepreneurs. And, I think it's great that you're doing what you're doing. And I'm a huge fan, and I've only gotten a short overview from Dennis, but I hope this has been helpful.
Yeah, it's been terrific, John. I think, Pete, go ahead.
No, I have a personal question for John. You said you sponsored the JMU rugby team.
Yeah.
Did you play rugby?
I started playing in 1994, and I actually, up until COVID-19, I had played in my last tournament, which was the Aspen Rudderfest in 2019, before COVID hit.
That's impressive. What position did you play?
I played, when I was a young man, I played loose head prop. And today I play I play second row 4 or 5. That's what I played today.
I played second row 4 for about 8 years. A little bit of 8-man. Played prop a couple of times when I had some weight on me. I was back in the day. But great sport.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fun. I mean, Dennis can tell you this, but we have a touring team called Cardinals Rugby, which started out as the Virginia Cardinals. We have 374 members in 10 countries. And we play 5 tournaments a year, and we play 35 and over, 45 and over, 50 over, and 55 and over matches in every one of the tournaments. And we play a charity event against the New Zealand Embassy every year in Washington, D.C. And we've never lost to the New Zealand team, ever. And that's 33 plus. And I've played in that up until 2 years ago when I stopped because I got old and slow.
Yeah, it happened to me a while ago. I used to play with Rocky Gorge Rugby. I played in college and then Rocky Gorge Rugby up in Maryland. And
that's a good program. Yeah, they're a great team.
Yeah,
a lot of those.
So.
Yeah, a lot of those guys. I had a graduate at JMU that played for Rocky Gorge for a long time, Chris Kunkel, and Chris was he played professional rugby here in the United States, and he played in England as well. So
great sport. You should talk sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, John, thank you very much for your really John is an unusual guy in that he's heart and soul and very successful financially, and I find that to be a rare combination. So I always enjoy. I learn as much as we've sat around and had a few items to drink and talked. I learn something every time I hear from him. So thank you, John, very much, and we'll have you back. I promise. I think you just scratched the surface here. It's really good.
Well, thanks, everybody. Thank you, Dennis. And
yeah, thank you, John.
I'd say back at you. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Sawyer.
Yeah, I was just saying thank you. And I liked how you broke out, the category of people into knowledge and attitude, and how you can, help educate and people can gain more knowledge, but the attitude, relies on that individual.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, listen, guys, if you got any questions for me, please shoot them to Dennis. He'll shoot them to me. And don't let Dennis sell himself short. He's taught me more stuff than I really can remember. And a lot of it has really helped me in my business over time. So he's always been a great friend and a good sounding board for me. So there you go.
Thank you, John. I'll pay you the $20 later. No problem.
Cool. All right.
All right. Bye, everybody.
All right, guys. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Yep. Cheers.
Awesome.